People think of Latina women as being fiery and fierce, which is usually true, but I think the quality that so many Latinas possess is strength. I'm very proud to have Latin blood. Status quo, is Latin for the mess we're in. They talk about the failure of socialism, but where is the success of capitalism in Africa, Asia, and Latin America? Latins are tenderly enthusiastic. In Brazil, they throw flowers at you. In Argentina, they throw themselves. First of all, the music that people call Latin or Spanish is really African, so black people need to get the credit for that. If the Romans had been obliged to learn Latin, they would never have found time to conquer the world. That which I have set out in Latin is not my words, but the words of God and of apostles and prophets, who of course have never lied. He who believes shall be saved, but he who does not believe shall be damned. God has spoken. Latin women are very comfortable with their bodies and their sexuality. We aren't afraid to show that off a little bit more. I'm too young to have kids, but I really want to be a mom. I don't know if it's a Latin thing, but I love kids. Fidel Castro, whatever people may think of him, is a hero in Latin America primarily because he stood up to the United States. There are cultural issues everywhere, in Bangladesh, Latin America, Africa, wherever you go, but somehow when we talk about cultural differences, we magnify those differences. Am I Latin? Am I American? What the hell am I? I love my culture, and I'm very proud of my culture. We all have that capacity to lose our humanity when circumstances force us to do so. It's not specific to people who live in Africa or Latin America or Asia, and equally, we are capable of regaining ourselves. I grew up in the north of Chile, and this is why there are a lot of religious symbols in my pictures, because the Catholic Church in Latin America is very strong. Latin America has much richer resources. You'd expect it to be far more advanced than East Asia, but it had the disadvantage of being under imperialist wings. The peoples of Asia, Africa, and Latin America have common interest and are in the position to support each other in their anti-imperialist and anti-U.S. struggle as long as Africa and Latin America are not free. I know I'm representing a group, Black, Latin, whatever you want to put me with, and I want to show that they are beautiful the way they are. I think that's really important for our youth to see. I toured with the idea of playing Ravels, Tavain per anni infante defunt, but I couldn't remember if it's a tune or Latin, prescription for piles. A Latin teacher told me I might make a good actress, and that stuck in my memory. I did some modeling, and Polanski gave me that small part. I want to be that Latin girl doing big things around the world. Politicians of both parties told us that free trade with Asia and Latin America would spur economic growth, and maybe it did somewhere else in our towns, though factories continue shutting down or moving overseas. In Latin America, you don't do things for the money because there is no money. Is there no Latin word for tea? Upon my soul, if I had known that I would have let the vulgar stuff alone. I've got some gift for languages, you follow your gift, but Latin's not easy. For 500 years, since European explorers came, Latin American countries had been separated from one another. They had very limited relations. Integration is a prerequisite for independence. Joaquin Sabina is one of my favorites. He's like a legend. He's like our Bob Dylan or our Bruce Springsteen. He's one of the most talented writers of our Latin music. You can't ignore the obvious. Women after a certain age are believed to be good for nothing in the entertainment field, especially in the Latin world. You can't ignore the obvious. Women after a certain age are believed to be good for nothing in the entertainment field, especially in the Latin world. I grew up at this incredibly odd intersection in Los Angeles, where it felt like the black hood met black elegance met white, gentrification met Latin culture met wetlands. Latin American culture is conservative, and the rural areas are tremendously conservative. I don't believe that's just a Chilean thing. It is to TV that I owe my freedom from bondage of the Latin lover rules. Television came along and gave me parts to chew on. It gave me wings as an actor. I do have a Mexican accent, but that doesn't mean that I'm a Latin vamp. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. The ballroom is all about tails, and I never mess about with that. But for the Latin, you can have a bit fun. Tight trousers, gold shirt open to my waist. Be a bit ridiculous. I tried to give the world a bit of creativity, lyrics. And for me, I will always represent music from Puerto Rico, reggaeton, Latin music. I'm a traditionalist. I'm a Latin Mass Catholic, and I hold to traditional views of responsibility. I feel I'll take on the responsibility of showing the world a whole different kind of Latin woman.